In 1959, 9 Soviet hikers vanished in the Ural Mountains during a winter expedition. All of them were young, skilled, seasoned in survival. But when rescuers found them weeks later, what they saw made no sense. Their tent was discovered high on a slope, ripped open from the inside. Footprints, some barefoot, led into the woods. Their bodies were scattered across the snow, in various stages of undress. Some had crushed ribs. One had a fractured skull. And Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue. No signs of struggle. No other footprints. No animals. Just a frozen scene of terror. And a mystery that's baffled scientists, soldiers, and conspiracy theorists for over 6 decades. Some say it was an avalanche. Others believe it was something the Soviet government tried to bury. Or something not human at all. Whatever it was, it left 9 young people dead. And it left behind one of the coldest, darkest, unsolved mysteries in human history. The story begins in late January 1959, in the Soviet Union, under a sky heavy with snow and silence. 10 young people, 8 men, 2 women, gathered in the small city of Sverdlovsk. Most were students or recent graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. They were smart, tough, trained in survival, and they were about to take on one of the most dangerous treks in the Soviet wilderness. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, just 23 years old, bright, disciplined, and respected. He had already led several challenging expeditions. People trusted him. They followed him. With him were 9 others, each with their own story. Yuri Doroshenko, once arrested for standing shirtless in a snowstorm just to prove his resilience. Zina Kolmogorova, bright, cheerful, a physics student who loved the mountains. Lyudmila Dubinina, stern, serious. Only 20. She had survived a bear attack on a previous expedition. Rustam Slobodin, an athlete, calm and thoughtful. Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, handsome, smart, the son of a French communist exile. Semyon Zolotaryov, the outsider, at 38, older than the rest. A war veteran, no one really knew why he joined. Alexander Kolevatov, quiet and methodical, a nuclear physics major. Yuri Krivonischenko, nicknamed Georgie, a joker. He worked at a nuclear facility connected to the KYSHDYM disaster. And finally, Yuri Yudin. Yuri was the only one who would live, because on January 28th, he turned back due to health issues, rheumatism, and a heart condition. He said goodbye to his friends, watched them disappear into the White Hills, and never saw them alive again. The group was aiming to reach Gorau Torton, a peak whose name in the local Mansi language means don't go there. They laughed at the legend. They were scientists, rational, practical, but something was waiting for them. On February 1st, they set up camp on the slope of Koletsykel, the mountain of the dead. Why they chose to stop there, exposed in deep snow instead of the forest nearby, is still a mystery. It was the last place they were ever seen alive. When they didn't return on schedule, a search party was sent. Helicopters swept over the mountains. Rescue teams on skis combed the terrain. And then, on February 26, 1959, they found the tent. What they found defied every rule of logic and every page of the survival handbook. February 26, 1959. Searchers trudging through knee-deep snow reached a remote slope of Koletsykel. There, half buried in drifts, was a tent, flattened, slashed, and cut from the inside. It looked like whoever was in there had clawed their way out in a panic, not through the entrance flap, but through the fabric itself, as if they didn't have time to unzip it. Outside the tent, in the snow, they found footprints, barefoot, some wearing only socks, a few in one shoe, 9 sets, leading down the slope toward the forest, and then vanishing into the white. They followed those tracks for nearly a mile into a small patch of trees. Beneath a cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonischenko, lying in their underwear, burned, hands and feet blackened, as if they'd tried to climb the tree or shield themselves from fire. The tree branches were broken almost 5 meters high. Between the cedar and the camp, 3 more bodies were discovered. Igor Dyatlov, Zina Kolmogorova and Rustam Slobodin. They looked like they'd been trying to crawl back to the tent. Rustam had a fractured skull, but no visible wounds. None of them wore proper clothing for minus 30 degrees Celsius conditions. The last 4 were missing for weeks. Not until the snow began to melt in May were they found, buried under several feet of snow in a ravine, deeper into the woods. These bodies were different. Semyon Zolotaryov had his chest crushed, ribs shattered with a force akin to a car crash. So did Nikolai Thibault-Brignol's. Ludmila Dubinina was missing her eyes, her tongue, and part of her lips. But here's what chilled investigators the most. There were no signs of struggle, no bruises on their hands, no external wounds on the chest, just internal trauma, as if something had pressed down with immense force and then vanished. One of them was found holding a pen and notebook, but the pages were blank. The official explanation at the time, a compelling natural force. But nobody, not the families, not the searchers, not the people who looked at those bodies, believed it. And behind closed doors, even the Soviet investigators seemed terrified. What happened on that mountain was no accident. Something drove them into the freezing night, half-dressed, terrified, and whatever was left no trace but death. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened the night of February 1st, 1959. But based on evidence, footprints, injuries, and the position of the bodies, this is what we believe. It was late, past midnight. The hikers had eaten dinner, taken diary notes, gone to sleep. Then something happened. Something powerful enough to cause all 9 people to flee into a blizzard. Some didn't even take shoes. They ran barefoot into minus 30 degrees Celsius winds. But why? There were no signs of avalanche impact near the tent. No broken bones. No snow displacement that could account for panic. No warning signs in their journal entries. No final messages. But something terrified enough to slash their own tent open and run. Did they hear something outside or inside? Did a noise in the distance trigger primal fear? Or did one of them snap, causing the others to scatter? As they fled down the slope, some tried to stay together. Some likely tried to turn back. Under the cedar tree, it looks like they tried to start a fire. The burns on Yuri and Georgie suggest they got too close, or tried to keep warm. They stripped clothing off the dead to survive. Signs of desperation. But further downhill, it gets darker. Ludmila Dubinina's tongue was gone. Her eyes, cleanly removed. Some claimed they were eaten by animals, but she was found face up. The skin around her mouth peeled back in horror. Semyon Zolotaryov's injuries were so severe forensic experts say it was like being hit by a car. But his body had no external bruises. The radiation on their clothing, unexplained, not from the environment. So what caused it? A government weapon test? A psychological breakdown? Or something no one wants to name? One theory, the group witnessed something they weren't supposed to see. Another, they were driven to madness by infrasound, subsonic vibrations that cause anxiety and panic. And a third, well, some believe it was something not of this world. A witness from a nearby village claimed they saw orange orbs in the sky that night, fireballs, silent, floating. The Soviets denied any military activity in the region, but declassified documents later revealed there were military units just 30 kilometers away, testing parachute mines. So which was it? A weapon? A creature? Or something else entirely? Whatever it was, it left 9 dead in its wake, and a mystery frozen in time. When the bodies were found, the Soviet government moved fast. The pass was closed to the public. The area was sealed off, and the lead investigator, Lev Ivanov, was told to wrap the case quickly. The official conclusion? A compelling natural force. No further explanation, no follow-up, no accountability. But behind the scenes, Ivanov wasn't so sure. In a rare interview years later, he admitted he believed something paranormal might have occurred. The injuries were too extreme, the behavior too irrational, and the radiation made no sense. The hikers' belongings were confiscated, diaries sealed, photos redacted, One image in the recovered camera showed the group smiling just hours before they died. Another, reportedly the last frame, showed a strange blur, a flash of light, or something else. When the families asked for answers, they were given silence. Coffins were delivered closed, and some claimed the body's skin had turned an unnatural orange tint. The coroner never provided full reports. Whispers began to spread. The hikers saw something, or were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Many believed they were victims of a Soviet weapons test. A parachute mine, silent but deadly, would explain the internal trauma without external wounds. And perhaps the radiation. Others said it was a KGB operation gone wrong. That some of the hikers, particularly Zolotaryov, a veteran, were involved in secret missions. Were they silenced? Still others pointed to the strange lights in the sky, seen by villagers at night. UFOs, alien interference, even time anomalies. But the most chilling thing? Decades later, when hikers returned to Dyatlov Pass, some claimed to hear voices on the wind. Others found strange burns on the ground. And one team swore their compass spun uncontrollably near the spot where the tent was found. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the case, only to close it again with a new explanation: avalanche. But the survivors of the search team still reject that. They were there. They saw the tent. They saw the terror on the dead faces. Something happened in those woods, and the truth is still buried under the snow. The Dyatlov Pass incident is one of the rare cases where every theory sounds unbelievable, and yet none can be ruled out. Let's start with the official explanation. Avalanche. Yes, the group camped on a slope, and snow conditions may have destabilized. But experts argue there was no sign of an avalanche path, no consistent pattern of injuries, and the tent was still partially upright. Next, there's the parachute mine test theory. Declassified military reports later revealed tests were being done in the area. Parachute mines explode above ground. They can cause massive internal damage without leaving visible wounds. That explains some of the trauma. And the radiation? Possibly from military equipment. But it raises one question. Why were the families told nothing? Then there's infrasound, a rare weather phenomenon caused by wind passing through the pass. Could have created low-frequency sound waves, too low to consciously hear, but enough to induce panic, hallucinations, dread. Could infrasound have driven them out of their tent and into their deaths? Others turn to the unexplainable. UFOs. Multiple witnesses in nearby towns described orbs, glowing, silent, in the skies on the night the hikers died. One photo, recovered from the group's camera, shows a strange light in the forest. Could it be a coincidence? Or did they witness something they weren't meant to see? There are those who believe it was the Yeti, a local legend, a creature of the Ural Mountains. Some insist the slashes in the tent resemble claw marks. A diary entry even joked, "From now on, we know the snowman exists." And finally, there are whispers of KGB interference. Semyon Zolotaryov, a war veteran who joined the group late, had mysterious tattoos. Some speculate he was spying, that the group was carrying radioactive material or meeting someone in the mountains. If true, they may have been silenced. But here's the truth. Every theory, every angle, solves only part of the mystery. None explain it all. Not the footprints, not the eyes and tongue, not the missing time, not the silence that followed. Whatever happened on that mountain wasn't meant to be understood. Over 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass remains a wound frozen in time. The snow has buried their tracks, but not the questions. Why did they run? What made them scream? And will we ever uncover the truth?